Hello again, and as we see, the shades of India have progressed from Howdy Modi to Came Cho Trump. The US President is due to land in Ahmedabad Monday to possibly the most dramatic reception a leader visiting India has ever had. The Trumps are due to pass through a welcoming roadshow stretching 14 miles to a public meeting at Motera Stadium that could make that Houston event seem like a private conversation. That was a mere 50,000 people. Here we are talking millions.
राष्ट्रपति डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प भारत में आपका बहुत
स्वागत है
डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प भारत देशाనికి स्वागत
मोहतरम सदर जनाब डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प हिंदुस्तान में आपका खैर मकदम है
भारत में पधारवा માટે
डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प
તમારું ખૂબ
बहुत स्वागत છે
डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प क्या हालत है
यूएस प्रेसिडेंट डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प आपका भारत में स्वागत है
હું ઇન્ડિયામાં સર ડોનાલ્ડ ટ્રમ્પलाई स्वागत गर्दछु
डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प
We welcome you to India.
राष्ट्रपति ट्रम्प भारत देशम रे अड़ी रसकते आतंक दाराम दीकन
माननीय प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प अपने के भारत में बहुत बहुत स्वागत भाई
प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प इंडिया तराम
ट्रम्प जी भारत में आपका स्वागत है
राष्ट्रपति डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प
हिंदुस्तान में आपका खैर मकदम करते हैं
ప్రెసిడెంట్ ట్రంప్ ని ఇండియాకి ఆహ్వానిస్తున్నాము స్వాగతం పలుకుతున్నాము
ट्रम्प जी
आपको स्वागत करता है अपना देश
அமெரிக்க அதிபர் ட்ரம்பை இந்திய மக்கள் அனைவரும் அன்போடு வரவேற்கிறோம்
भारत देशम रे
মই আমেরিকার রাষ্ট্রপতি ডোনাল্ড ট্রাম্প
स्वागत करूँ था
श्रीमान डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प इंडिया देवी
स्वागत है
ডোনাল্ড ট্রাম্প আমাদের ভারতবর্ষে আপনার অনেক অনেক স্বাগতম
Mr. President, send this Hindustan to Norris picture as Sari, much wounded for
इस्तेकबाल करान
भारतान तुमका हुनुनित योका दिताम माननीय राष्ट्रपति ट्रम्प
प्रेसिडेंट डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प
भारत में स्वागत करी
वेलकम टू इंडिया डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प
भारत में आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है राष्ट्रपति डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प
I have the honor to introduce you to my family.
After Howdy Modi in Texas, we'll now have Namaste Trump in Ahmedabad. Decks are all cleared for the US President Donald Trump's maiden visit to India. When Trump visits India on the 24th of February, along with the First Lady. PM Modi has already expressed excitement to host the US President and stated that the visit will further cement bilateral ties. Trump too tweeted that he is looking forward to the trip. The India trip is strategic in many ways for both leaders. On the table are issues such as trade ties, defense and counter-terrorism. Regional security will also be high on the agenda. All eyes will be on Trump and every word he speaks about tackling terror, especially since India has conveyed its stand on cross-border terror emanating from Pakistan. India needs America on its side to keep the FATF pressure on Pakistan to cut terror funding. Bureau Report, CNN News 18.
We've heard much about this blossoming friendship between the two leaders and their no doubt friendly rivalry over social media following. In politics, friendship is always a tricky word, but for sure, no friend of Trump in the US could have laid out a reception for him that could come anywhere near this. So, past that 14-mile corridor, just what's been planned for the Trumps in India?
This plane of the US Air Force touched down in Ahmedabad today. Trump's Secret Service team has arrived a week ahead to review the preparations. The president's entourage has also arrived at the Hyatt Hotel in Ahmedabad, where the presidential suite, along with other rooms, have been blocked. Prime Minister Modi will receive the Trumps at the Ahmedabad airport. They will then take part in a 22-kilometer-long roadshow.
We look forward to utilize this opportunity to showcase the rich culture and diversity of our entire country.
Donald Trump and Prime Minister will head to the revamped Motera Stadium, which is the world's largest. It is here that both leaders will have a joint address along the lines of Howdy Modi.
ટ્રમ્પ અને વડાપ્રધાન મોદીને સત્કારવા થનગની રહ્યું છે ભવ્યથી ભવ્ય સ્વાગત થશે
The The event was earlier named Game Show Trump, but it's been changed to Namaste President Trump to give it a national theme rather than a regional one.
And a visit to Agra, that Taj Mahal moment seems mandatory.
The route from the airport to the Taj Mahal is getting a facelift. The roads on the way are getting a fresh coat of paint, and trees along the route are getting a good dusting.
पूरे शहर में उत्साह का माहौल है और दुनिया की महाशक्ति के जो राष्ट्राध्यक्ष है, राष्ट्रपति है डोनाल्ड ट्रंप, उनके स्वागत में ताज नगरी सज रही है। किले बंदी रहेगी जबरदस्त ताकि सुरक्षा कायम रह सके और सुंदरता बढ़ाई जा रही ताज नगरी की ताकि अभिभूत हो सके डोनाल्ड ट्रंप।
More than 5,000 policemen will be on duty during the VVIP visit. The arrangements are being overseen by Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath himself. Trump will only be the second US president in recent years to have visited the Taj Mahal. The first being Bill Clinton, who visited the Taj Mahal in 2000 with his daughter Chelsea.
Wouldn't appear so from all the excitement, but a visit by a US president to India is not unusual. This is the 7th.
The first American president to visit India was Dwight Eisenhower back in 1959. With Nehru and Rajendra Prasad by his side, Eisenhower spoke at a huge public rally in Delhi's Ramlila Maidan. He also addressed a joint sitting of Parliament. 10 years later, it was Richard Nixon's turn to visit India. But he barely spent 22 hours in Delhi. It was the shortest trip ever by an American president to India and reflected the unease between him and then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi.
We want our generation to be remembered as the one in which man first set foot on the moon, and as the one in which for the first time in the 20th century we had uninterrupted peace with justice and freedom for man on earth.
In 1978, Jimmy Carter's visit was meant to break the thaw in relations after the Bangladesh War and the Pokhran nuclear test. Carter addressed a joint session of Parliament.
Building of a new economic order must be undertaken in ways that promote constructive development rather than fruitless confrontation.
Jimmy Carter and wife Rosalind also went to a village on the outskirts of Delhi, which was later named Carterpuri. In the year 2000, Bill Clinton came to India with his daughter Chelsea. The visit ended American sanctions imposed after the 1998 nuclear tests and marked the beginning of closer US-India strategic and economic ties. Clinton got a ceremonial reception in Delhi. He also visited Mumbai, and along the way, they also went to see the Taj Mahal in Agra. In 2006, George W. Bush spent barely 60 hours in India during his only trip to the country in his 2 terms as president.
Well, I must say I have been received in many capitals around the world, but I've never seen a reception as well organized and as grand as the reception we just received.
During the visit, Bush and then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh finalized the framework of the India-US nuclear deal. In 2010, it was the turn of Barack Obama to visit India. He addressed the parliament and backed India's ambition to become a permanent member of the United Nations. Barack and Michelle Obama also met survivors of the 26/11 terror attack in Mumbai. They didn't shy away from breaking a leg. In 2015, Barack Obama made his second visit to India when he was invited to be the chief guest at the Republic Day parade. He is the only American president to have been given that honor. It's during this visit that he and Prime Minister Modi had a chai pe charcha and strengthened India-US relations.
A quick word with Maha Siddiqui in Delhi on all this Trump mania. Maha, these preparations appear fabulous, the stuff of fables more than of politics. You think it might all be too much?
That's right, and this was a question that was in fact put to the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, Ravish Kumar, here in New Delhi. The question was whether this sort of extravagance is justified, to which the answer was that this kind of preparation goes into any event of this scale. Moreover, they pointed out that the event organizers are a committee called the Donald Trump Nagrik Abhinandan Samiti. But we do know that the Gujarat government has been keenly involved in the preparations, and we've been given to believe that over 50,000 people will be lining the streets, the entire stretch from the Ahmedabad airport, where the Air Force One will be landing on the noon of 24th of February and will go all the way up to Motera Stadium. This is approximately a 9-kilometer long stretch. There'll be school students, there'll be artisans, there will be cultural groups which will be performing all through this stretch that will be taken by the US President Donald Trump's cavalcade. At the Motera Stadium, there'll be over 110,000 people who will be ready to welcome him. That's the capacity of the Motera Stadium after the big renovation that it has undergone. About 10,000 Indian Americans are flying down for this event, and moreover, the entire city of Ahmedabad is anyway decked up. There's been a lot of sprucing up there that has already been done. In fact, there was also widely reported in the media a story about a wall coming up around a slum area which will hide that slum area behind that wall. The authorities have said that the plan to construct this wall was there earlier on as well, but it has been hurriedly completed just before the arrival of US President Donald Trump.
And why Gujarat as the first step? Because it's the PM's home state and he could himself oversee a welcome here like no other?
Well, there's certainly a level of comfort as far as Ahmedabad is concerned, and as you pointed out, because it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's home state, we have seen other dignitaries being taken to Ahmedabad as well. For instance, Chinese President Xi Jinping, then Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as well. All have gone to Ahmedabad because in a sense they believe, the government believes that Ahmedabad will be able to get all the preparations done in time for such big events. But the government has also been taking dignitaries to other locations in India as well. For instance, the current informal summit between India and China that happened late last year was organized in Mahabalipuram. That was because of the connect between China and south of India. Also, Shinzo Abe was taken to Varanasi. So the idea initially by the government was to showcase leaders other parts of India as well. But yes, we have seen that largely the preferred destination is Ahmedabad.
And the Taj Mahal, not far from your own hometown, will this be more about the Trump's love for one another than for India's love for them?
Well, as far as Agra is concerned, it's rather interesting because initially we were given to believe that it is only Melania Trump who will be going to Agra to see the Taj Mahal, and that was initially being fixed for the 25th, that is next Tuesday. Later on, it was, the schedule was rejigged in a way that US President Donald Trump can accompany Melania Trump to the Monument of Love as well. Well, who wouldn't want to go to Agra to see the Taj Mahal, one of the greatest wonders of the world? And I think that is why the US President is undertaking this journey in his packed schedule to go to Agra and witness that wonder for himself. So much so that at the moment we do know that according to a Supreme Court order, no diesel vehicle, petrol vehicle can go all the way up to the Taj Mahal. They have to stop about 500 meters away from Taj Mahal, and from there electric vehicles take them to the pristine white monument. And so the question here was whether the beast, which is the official vehicle in which the US President travels, can that vehicle go all the way up to Taj Mahal? So what we've been given to believe is no, the Supreme Court ruling will be respected, and therefore alternative arrangements are being made for the US President and the First Lady to reach the Taj Mahal, and they will be viewing the Taj Mahal at sunset on the first day of their visit to India, that is Monday, the 24th of February.
Thanks, Maha. All very Bollywood-like, Bahubali-like. Quick break now and then to more serious business that will arise through this visit. Welcome back, and on that serious business, let's hear more from Zaka Jacob. Zaka, You know, with so much happening around this visit, it might seem silly to ask first what is not happening. But the big trade deal is not happening, not yet anyway. What are some of the hurdles to trade in what that have to be negotiated?
So clearly the trade deal is not happening, as Trump himself indicated that he's hoping for a much bigger trade deal, and he's not sure it can happen before November. So certainly as part of this trip, they're not looking at any kind of mega trade deal. This has been confirmed by the Indian side as well. Now, why haven't they been able to arrive at a trade deal? I think, look, oftentimes these negotiations are very tricky. The devil really lies in the detail. There's a lot of minutiae that needs to be ironed out. And once a decision is taken, it can have a direct bearing on people's lives. We're talking about, everyday goods that are being used. So it could have a direct bearing and a direct impact on people's lives. So oftentimes, if you look at trade negotiations, you look at India's entry into the WTO, those negotiations took a whole bunch of years. And usually these trade negotiations are not done at the level of the principals, that in this case, the Prime Minister of India and the President of the United States. They have authorized their respective commerce heads. In the case of India, Piyush Goyal, the Commerce Minister, and in the case of the United States, Robert Lighthizer, who's the U.S. Trade Representative. And the fact that Lighthizer is not accompanying Mr. Trump on this visit was indication early enough that no kind of trade deal is going to be signed as part of this particular visit. I think the sticking point is this: the U.S. basically wants a lot of concessions for a lot of these American imports, particularly dairy products and agro products that they're exporting into India. What India wants essentially is a lot of waivers, a lot of ironing out of issues concerning H-1B and Indian professionals in the United States. And I don't think they've seen a sort of flexibility from the American side when it comes to that contentious question. So that's the broader reason why this has not been worked out. But really, also it's about the trade negotiators just sitting down and going through hours and hours and days and months of protracted negotiations to try and finally zero in on many of the sort of import duties on these products.
Some US defense sales are expected. Just how big a market does the US see India for its defense goods, and what might these sales now be for now and later?
Well, that's expected to be one of the big deals that will be announced, a deal for multi-role choppers as far as the Indian Navy is concerned. Remember, just last year, India had bought the Apache helicopters, about 8 of them. We're given to understand that there will be something similar for the Indian Navy. It's called the Romeo deal because these multi-role choppers that the Indian Navy has been eyeing, I think about 24 of them at the cost of about $2.5 billion or so. Look, the United States is already India's largest sort of net defense exporter. I think over a period of the last 20 years or so, since relations started going off into a different tectonic shift altogether, India has imported something like $20 billion worth of weapons. This is direct sales, direct purchases by Indian companies or by Indian government directly either from the American government or from American companies, about $20 billion in the last 20 years or so. So that makes America India's largest defense supplier. In addition to the choppers, there are also ongoing conversations. We know about the multi-role fighter jets. India is hoping to import or at least sign off a deal about over 100 of them, in addition to what the Rafale that has already been stitched up with the French. With America, I think what India wants really is more than just a transactional relationship, more than just a buyer-seller relationship. I think what they want is cooperation on technology platforms. What they want is upgrades that will be available, service and maintenance. These are things that India sees as part of a long-term relationship and not just necessarily a transactional one, one that's between a buyer and a seller.
Politically or geopolitically, as we like to say, how far is this visit a step to, or at least a signal for, containment of China?
Look, since Trump came to office, the whole idea of containing China has sort of taken a back seat, and we've seen this with Trump's foreign policy. He's much more of an insular president compared to Obama or even Bush before that. The whole idea of India needs to be propped up from an American perspective. India needs to be propped up so that it can be a counterweight to China is something that was started by George Bush with the nuclear deal. It was carried forward by Obama with the whole pivot to Asia. But I think ever since Trump came to office, the pivot, nobody talks about the pivot to Asia. Nobody talks about balancing India as a counterweight to China. Yes, There has been some progress in the Indo-Pacific, but really Trump is not the kind of president who's interested in these sort of things. I mean, the only thing he's interested in vis-a-vis China is to try and extract a trade deal out of them. I don't think he is meaningfully, at least in any way, checked the growing influence of the Chinese military and the Chinese Navy in the Indian Ocean region. It's not something that is particularly of great interest to the president, and therefore it's not really high up the pecking order as far as this administration is concerned.
And after India has laid out the longest of red carpets, what if Trump then talks Kashmir in ways India may not like?
Well, this is the great unknown when it comes to Trump. I mean, he can say anything. He can say stuff off the cuff. He could say something on his Twitter feed, and that could completely, upset the nature of the visit itself. But I think some of it is built in. I think the Indian officials, if you speak to them, know that the president does have a bit of a mercurial nature. But if you look at the statements that he made on Kashmir, I think he made it about 3-4 times over the past year or so. He's tempered it down every time. First he said, I'd like to mediate, and then he tempered it with, if both parties are interested, then we would like to help. I think he has been now told that this is a bit of a sore point as far as India is concerned, and therefore don't bring it up. I wouldn't be surprised if he still does, but the fact that he's not going to Pakistan as part of this trip, and that this is a standalone visit, I think is of importance. It's being underlined by...
Thanks, Zaka. And now for the summit and the spectacle of it. We can consider then just what happened or not next weekend.